There is a new kind of fire burning in the night sky over Russia. It's not the distant flash of artillery on a far-off front line. It is an inferno, an apocalyptic blaze erupting deep within the motherland, at the very heart of Vladimir Putin's war economy. In recent weeks, the world has watched, mesmerized as spectacular footage of these fires has flooded the internet. We've seen searing towers of flame engulfing the oil ports at Primorsk and Ust-Luga in the Leningrad Oblast, turning night into a terrifying, flickering day. This wasn't an accident. This was a message delivered by Ukrainian drones that traveled hundreds of miles undetected to strike a nerve. And when the smoke cleared, satellite imagery confirmed what the fires had already told us. The damage was catastrophic. These strikes are far more than just a symbolic blow. This is a calculated strategic assault on the lifeblood of the Russian war machine. Because if you want to stop a tyrant's army, you don't just fight it on the battlefield. You hit it where it hurts the most, in its wallet. But what we are now witnessing is something even more profound, a strategy so devastating it could cause the entire Russian military to grind to a halt, not for financial reasons, but for brutally simple mechanical ones. Beyond the headlines of the burning ports, Ukraine has been methodically targeting two of the most critical industrial jewels in Russia's crown, the Kyryshi Nefteoxyntez refinery, or Kinjev, and the Yaroslavl Nefteoxyntez refinery, known as Yanos. These facilities are located a staggering 430 miles from the nearest Ukrainian border, a testament to the incredible reach and audacity of these attacks. Now you might be thinking, Russia is an energy superpower. It has over 50 refineries. How much can hitting just two of them really matter? The answer is, it matters more than you can possibly imagine. These are not just any old refineries. Kinetic is the second largest refinery in the entire Russian Federation. Yanos is the fourth. Together, they pour out a colossal 680,000 barrels of refined products every single day. To put that in perspective, Russia's total refining capacity is about 6.5 million barrels per day. That means with these two facilities taken offline, Putin loses more than 10% of his entire country's refining output instantly. That is a staggering loss. And since the latest round of Ukrainian strikes in late March, both of these industrial giants have gone completely dark. It's been approaching a week with zero output, and the Kremlin has offered no timeline, no hope for when they might be restored. This couldn't have happened at a worse time for Putin. The global energy market is in chaos. Iran, in response to attacks by the US and Israel, has effectively shut down the Straits of Hormuz, the jugular vein of the world's oil supply. 20% of all global oil passes through that narrow choke point, and its closure has triggered what many are calling the greatest oil supply shock in modern history. The crisis is so severe that the United States has been forced to take the bitter pill of temporarily lifting sanctions on oil from its adversaries, Russia and even Iran, just to stop the global economy from spiraling. Vladimir Putin must have been salivating. With global demand desperate and prices skyrocketing to 2 or 3 times their previous levels, he was poised to make a fortune, bankrolling his war for years to come. But Ukraine flipped the script. Instead of reaping a windfall, Putin is now watching his revenues burn. At current market prices, the combined strikes on these two refineries and their associated export hubs are costing him anywhere from $50 to $100 million every single day. That's the price of a modern fighter jet, lost daily. That alone is a massive blow, but the financial pain is nothing compared to the even bigger headache these strikes have created. Because Kinetic and Yanos don't just pump out gasoline and diesel, they are the master producers of Russia's most specialized military-grade industrial oils and lubricants. And without them, Putin's war machine doesn't just run out of money, it literally seizes up. There is technically a third facility, the Lukoil refinery in Volgograd, that produces some of these vital military oils, but it offers no relief. That refinery has also been mercilessly pummeled by Ukraine, struck a total of 9 times. The last strike on February 11th crippled a key crude distillation unit, vaporizing 40% of its capacity and forcing a complete shutdown. As of today, it too remains offline. There is no backup. There is no plan B. Let's break down exactly what Russia is losing. The Volgograd plant was a specialist in aviation, kerosene, bitumen, and critical lubricants. You cannot keep supersonic jets and strategic bombers in the sky without that fuel. You cannot keep tanks, mobile air defense systems, and heavy artillery rolling forward without the precise lubricants that prevent their complex machinery from grinding itself into dust. For Putin, this isn't double trouble. It's a cascading systemic failure. Take Kinetic, the nation's second largest refinery. This single facility produces over 80 different products, but most critically, it produces virtually all grades of jet fuel for Russia's Air Force. This includes TS-1, the workhorse fuel comparable to the West's Jet A-1, known for its exceptional performance in the brutal Russian winter. It also produces RT, a superior hydro-treated grade of fuel. This is the high-performance juice required by supersonic combat aircraft, like the Su-30, designed for missions where the fuel itself can heat to extreme temperatures. Every single day that Kinetic remains a smoldering ruin is a day the Russian Air Force is one step closer to being grounded, starved of the very lifeblood it needs to fly. We don't know the exact size of Russia's strategic reserves, but given the furious pace of operations, they won't last forever. And Kinev's importance doesn't stop in the air. It is the only refinery in all of Russia explicitly identified as the producer of F5 and F12 marine fuel oils. These are the heavy specialized fuels required to power the massive engines of large naval vessels, including Russia's only aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov. Without Kinetic, the Russian Navy's largest surface combatants risk becoming little more than floating stationary targets. But as devastating as the loss of Kinetic is, the strikes on the Yanos refinery are arguably even more consequential for the Russian military. Yanos is the strategic heart of Russia's lubricant and specialized oils industry. Its main purpose is to supply the Central Federal District, including Moscow, and to directly fulfill the needs of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Yanos is the sole producer of a highly specialized Arctic diesel fuel engineered to a unique military standard. This fuel can function in temperatures as low as -85 degrees Fahrenheit without the use of additives, relying on incredibly advanced refining processes. It is essential for Russia's ambitions and operations in the high north. That capability is now gone. But the real catastrophe for the Kremlin lies in the oils and lubricants. The products from Yanos are the silent, unseen components that allow every major Russian weapon system to function. Let's be specific. The engines and transmissions of the T-90M, T-72B3M, and T-62 tanks, they all depend on oils from Yanos. The entire line of Russian armored personnel carriers, the heavy multi-axle transporters used for strategic missile systems, the heavy-duty Kamaz trucks that form the logistical backbone of the army, all of it runs on lubricants from this one facility. And it gets worse. The iconic T-80 tanks with their powerful gas turbine engines, they need Yanos. The hydraulic systems and drives of the Buk, Tor, and Pantsir air defense missile systems, the very systems meant to protect these refineries, they are lubricated by oils from Yanos. The gas turbine units on Russian Navy ships, the gearboxes for the feared Minute and Ka series attack helicopters, and even the turboprop engines and gearboxes of the Tu-95 MS strategic bomber, the aerial leg of Russia's nuclear triad, all are critically dependent on the unique oils produced at Yanos. Think about the implications. If Russian tanks are already underperforming, imagine them trying to fight with engines running dry, metal screaming against metal until they seize into a useless hunk of steel. If Russia's air defense is already creaking under Ukrainian pressure, imagine how porous it becomes when the Pantsir systems literally can't move into position to repel an attack because their hydraulic systems have failed. The conflict has not yet gone nuclear, but even if it did, Russia's ability to deploy its land-based RS-24 Yars intercontinental ballistic missile is now severely compromised. The massive platformer O transporters that carry and erect these missiles are dead in the water without the specialized lubricants from Yanos. The aerial component of the nuclear triad is equally threatened. The Tu-95MS bomber carries Russia's nuclear cruise missiles, but that bomber cannot get airborne. It cannot deliver its payload if the complex turboprop engines and gearboxes cannot be properly lubricated. And the only factory that makes that specific oil is now a smoking crater. Ukraine is not just attacking refineries, it is systematically dismantling the Russian war machine from the inside out. Now, it's true that these are enormous facilities. A few drone strikes, even successful ones, are not enough to permanently obliterate a plant the size of a small city. That's why Ukraine's strategy isn't about a single knockout blow. It's about a relentless attritional campaign. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. The damage progressively adds up. The costs of repair skyrocket, and the lost revenue bleeds the Kremlin dry. The late March strikes were not the first. Yanos was hit before, on a date that now seems prophetic, December 12, 2025. A typo in the original report, perhaps, but it points to a relentless, ongoing campaign. Kiev has been hit at least 6 times. In some of the earlier strikes, Russian officials tried to save face, claiming their air defenses shot down the drones and that only falling debris caused minor damage. But reports from inside the industry, confirmed by outlets like Reuters, told a different story. They spoke of key processing units being forced to halt, of furnaces and critical equipment damaged, of repairs that would take months. Each time Russia patched a hole, Ukraine just blew another one open, bigger and more damaging than the last. The latest strikes appear to have done the most damage yet, and there is absolutely no sign that Ukraine intends to stop. Why would they? These strikes, appropriately nicknamed Kinetic Sanctions, are achieving what years of economic sanctions have struggled to do. They are directly and immediately degrading Russia's ability to wage war. They have disabled at various times between 15 and 40% of Russia's total refining capacity. They have forced Moscow to cut fuel exports, tap into precious reserves, and reallocate its best air defense systems away from the front lines just to guard its industrial heartland. This creates a virtuous cycle for Ukraine. Fewer air defenses at the front means Ukrainian planes and drones have more freedom to operate, inflicting even more damage. But this brilliant strategy now faces a new unexpected challenge: pressure from its own allies. With the Straits of Hormuz closed and oil prices threatening to destabilize the global economy, Western nations are getting nervous. President Zelensky himself has admitted that some partners are quietly urging him to pull back, to ease the pressure on Russia's energy sector. It's a painful irony. In order to maintain global economic stability, the West is asking Ukraine to stop its single most effective campaign against the aggressor. The elevated oil prices will eventually hit Ukraine's own economy, but that is a secondary concern when your very existence is at stake. So the world holds its breath. Will Zelensky heed the calls of his allies, or will he continue to press his incredible advantage? If the global supply shock eases, we can fully expect to see more of these oily fireballs lighting up the Russian sky as Ukraine continues its mission to cripple the mechanical heart of Putin's war machine. One thing is certain: every day these refineries remain silent, the gears of Russia's military grind a little slower. Every broken pump and shattered pipeline brings the entire monstrous enterprise one day closer to a complete and total seizure. Ukraine has found Russia's Achilles heel, and it is made not of flesh and bone, but of steel, oil, and fire.